To speak more about the connection between music and literature is Sebastian Groes. He is a reader in English literature at the University of Roehampton in London. Welcome on our show, Sebastian.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Explain to me the connection between music and literature.
It's really such a wide field, isn't it? I mean, we've got all the arts, and in a way, they're all connected. They've got all these different kind of areas, and they overlap in many different ways. So I think it's really important to remember that the arts that are kind of interconnected, and they're kind of interwoven with one another. So yeah, pop songs, even classical literature, they kind of speak to literature as well, and to music. So one of the most classic examples is the Tolstoy story, the Kreutzer Sonata, which is kind of engaging with Beethoven's Kreutzer Sonata. And it thinks about this idea that this kind of classical music, it's got this kind of, it evokes all this lust and desire in this kind of couple. And yeah, this is in 1891 that Tolstoy writes that short story, actually.
Well, which era in history has shown the best example of a relationship between music and literature?
Well, I think I'm mentioning Tolstoy, but I think in the 20th century things really kick off, and particularly after the Second World War in the 60s with the Beatles, for instance. This is when the interconnections are really starting to kind of grow. So the Beatles are one of the groups that really pinch a lot of ideas and from literature, and there's lots of homages. And this then continues, I think, with people like David Bowie, who's really obsessed with literature, and particularly Orwell. He's written countless songs about 1984, but also Animal Farm.
Well, do you have a favorite example?
Yeah, I think the Beatles' Walrus, I Am the Walrus, which was inspired by a Lewis Carroll story. This is really when the Beatles start to kind of think about how their art is kind of interconnecting with the other arts, with painting, with film, but also with music.
Well, what about today? How is the relationship between music and literature these days?
Well, I think since the 21st century started with the digital revolution, the art forms have grown even closer. I think it's something to do with the age of connectivity that we live in. So you can see lots of artists just mining music and literature, film, paintings. There's really this sense that things are really overlapping, and there's new connections taking place.
Well, thank you so much for joining us there, Sebastian, from London for us. It was a pleasure having you today.